Hi everyone. Apologize for being a little late today. How are you? Good to see you. I didn't see you there. I had a good reason to be late. I would normally hate to be late to this group. Y'all are some of the most important people in my life, but I had two kids counting on me at a CPS matter here just a few minutes ago, and they had been in care of the state of Texas for a year and a half. And the father's done just enough to try to get back in these kids' life. And somebody had to be there to say, hell no. And so that's why I was there. And I knew you would forgive me if I was a few moments late to be doing that. The Department of Family and Protective Services was revamped this last legislative session. Many of the rules were changed. And that was under Republican leadership. The Democrat response was, we need to spend more money. Now, I don't have to tell y'all what the Democrat response is to most of these kind of governmental issues, do I? Because what is usually their response? Well, we just haven't spent enough yet. If you're here, you knew that. I didn't have to tell you. But in this particular area, the idea that spending more would solve a problem is particularly offensive. We did need to spend more on some things, but we needed to do better. Now, those of you that don't know me, hi, I'm Jeff Betty. I'm an attorney. I spent many years working as assistant city attorney for the city of San Angelo. And then after I left the city, when my boss retired, I retired, and I went into private practice. And a friend of mine, Judge Jay Weatherby, who I went to law school with many years ago, said, Jeff, come do CPS with me. It'll be fun, it'll keep you busy till you figure out what your next job's going to be. He lied. It's not fun, but it's an important part of my life now. It's half of my practice, and I won't let it take over, go less than half. It's just too important to me. But I wanted to talk about it not in reference to me so much as in reference to how it explains and illustrates the problems we've got going forward. The state of Texas is a Republican state. We know that. But this last midterm showed us how likely it is that it's not going to be a Republican state going forward if we don't get our collective you-know-what together. CPS is a classic example of mismanagement by those who have good intentions. We all know many Democrats in here. We have friends, family, we go to church with them. They're great folks. You just don't want to put them in charge of anything. They're kind, they're sweet, they're caring. The problem we've got is CPS has been the area, DFPS has been the area that has been ceded to Democrats since time immemorial in this state. And the solutions that are implemented by CPS are the solutions that Democrats told us would work. Democrats also told us that the Great Society would work and that we don't need a wall on the southern border. Getting the pattern? They're great folks, but their solutions aren't solutions. They're continuations of existing problems. And I'm here to tell you that if we don't have Republican leadership in this state and in this nation, we're going to continue to have the same problems or worse because their solutions don't fix anything. So what does that mean? What does leadership mean? Well, I think there's lots of examples of running around yelling real loud that's not leadership. And the mental image I always get for Democratic leadership, or at least poor leadership, remember Kevin Bacon in one of his first movies, Animal House? Anybody remember that movie? Do you remember Kevin Bacon in it? Anybody? Remember Animal House, right? Don Belushi, crazy, bad antics by people in college, right? Well, Kevin Bacon was the ROTC kid, one of the ROTC kids. And when the parade's going insane and people are swinging from the banners and the floats are driving around and all kinds of chaos is going on, Kevin Bacon's the kid going, remain calm, and he gets, of course, run over. That's not leadership. That's yelling. That's trying to do what he was taught, but it's a solution that won't solve the problem. Leadership is what, unfortunately, John Belushi and some of his friends were doing when they convinced a bunch of idiots to sabotage that parade. Now, I'm not saying leadership always results in good things. I'm just saying that's leadership. You may not like our current president's activities necessarily or the way he goes about it, but one of the reasons it's so surprising, one of the reasons the temperature in this country has risen is because it's leadership. He's not mincing words. He's not pretending to believe one thing and saying something else. He is taking the reins and trying to lead this country in a direction that he feels we need to go. You can debate the issues, the individual issues, or even the tactics, but you can't deny that he's trying to lead. The problem we've got is even those of us that support the president or are Republicans have concerns. So the question is, how do we express those concerns? How do we even cringe sometimes at the tactics and yet still remain functioning Republicans? And that's what I'm here to talk about today. Because what we've been doing in this state for the last 4 or 5 years, it's not going to work. It hasn't worked. It's got to stop. In this county, when the Tea Party, the grassroots, patriots, whatever you want to call yourselves, when you came around and you started having meetings, we were there. Some of the people that are officers in my organization, in the Republican Party of Tom Green County, are some of your founding folks. We can't endorse a particular political philosophy. We endorse the Republican Party, but we were there and we know you, and you're on my executive committee. In this county, we disagree vehemently sometimes, don't we, Ken? We even write letters about each other in the newspaper, don't we? But we get it done. In this county, every elected position that you can run for as a Republican, we hold with a Republican. And not just any Republican. Good ones that we can be proud of. County Commissioner, Judge, she hasn't had to run yet, but it's coming. Judge. We don't always get along. Some of us don't even like each other very much. And I'm proud to see y'all, by the way. Thanks for coming, even if it was just to see if I said something mean about you.
Be nice.
But when it comes down to doing the job of being a Republican, we show up. And we get the job done. That's what we've got to get happening in the rest of this state. You don't have to be nice to each other. I'd prefer it. You don't have to agree at all, but we got to get the job done. Tom Green County cast 17,000 votes for the Third Court of Appeals candidates in excess of the Democrat vote. We gave them a 17,000 vote lead coming out of Tom Green County. And we lost every seat, all 4 of them. We went from a 6-seat majority on the Third Court of Appeals to 2 seats. Both of those are now the senior judges. They will have to head panels of the Third Court in which they are outnumbered on their own panel. Every opinion coming from the Third Court from now until we do something about this problem will be written by a Democrat if the other Democrat supports them. Your Chief Justice, your Judge Melissa Goodwin, will get to manage the panel and be writing the dissents if they can't build a consensus across party lines. Good lawyers, good judges are supposed to be able to do what's best for the state, what's right, but unfortunately, as we know, partisan politics leaks even into those kind of deliberations. And so now the Supreme Court of Texas and the Court of Criminal Appeals of Texas, the 2 highest courts in this land, they will be the ones that have to fix the problems that come out of the Third Court of Appeals, if they come out. Now, I'm hoping the new judges will do a great job, and I don't, but quite frankly, one of them's only got 9 years experience as an attorney. You got to worry about an attorney that's been doing it 9 years writing appeals. So what happened? I can tell you what happened, and you're gonna have to listen to me gripe, because Williamson County, that normally provides us 35 to 40,000 Republican votes above the Democrat level, provided us 6. Hays County that often provides 20 or 25,000 Republican votes. 5,000. Travis County that usually ends up with a lead of 35 to 40,000 votes coming out of it. 75,000 votes for Democrats. Bell County that normally gets us 6, sometimes as much as 12, 1,000 votes. The only county that held the line in Third Court of Appeals was Tom Green. We didn't do it because we were all holding hands and singing Kumbaya and skipping together in time, but we did it because when it comes to it, we vote Republican and we do our job. Now, how do we get that outside Tom Green County? Well, my wife is district director for TFRW, Texas Federation Republican Women. She runs all the way to Lubbock and down in SD 28, and Republican women can do that for us some. I'm the district regional director for TRCCA, that's the County Chairs Association. I have 29, I think, counties from San Saba to Howard County, up almost to Abilene and south almost to San Antonio. And so we're going to be reaching out regionally to the counties in our areas, but also in statewide organizations to try to do our little part. Locally, y'all are doing your part. We're going to call on our officers and the clubs and organizations that are in this county to start reaching out into the surrounding counties. We've got outreach from the Republican Party that's going into the counties in our surrounding area. We're going to do some additional training and support of these regional rural county chairs to help them build some consensus, build some understanding of how to build a Republican Party, but these are just little parts of it. Ultimately, the big picture is, in this state, the Republican Party has got to be the party of all Republicans. Not just some of them, not just the ones with the right ideas, that understands the Constitution better than you do, or the Founding Fathers' intent better than you do. We've got to set aside the arrogance and start doing a little bit of that humility, that reaching out to folks who maybe aren't quite Republicans yet, but they're willing to listen to us. You don't get them to come to the church by showing up at the door, banging on it, and saying, "Have you found Jesus?" It's not how it works, folks. You got to get in the living room and explain to them what it means. And show examples of how it affects your life. You don't turn people into Republicans by screaming about the wall, or about abortion, or about any other issues that most everyone in this room probably agrees on. You got to explain it to them in a way that makes sense to their lives. And we can't do that if half of the party is screaming at the other half of the party because you're too crazy right or you're too rhino. Now, you've heard this from me more than once. You've heard this from me many times. I'm sick to death of the term rhino. I'll take rhino. Because if a rhino is Republican in name only and still pulling the R lever, what is he? A Republican. And when it comes right down to it, what's in the soul of the person that pulls the lever does not cast the vote. The vote is cast by the lever being pulled. And we can't do anything about what's affecting the state and afflicting these children in this state by being the minority, by being out of power. Oh, we'll be pure. We'll all agree with how wonderful we all agree on some topic, and we'll have the comfort of not being responsible for what's happening in this state or this country, because it'll be those mean old Democrats that have all the votes and all of the power. And so there's some comfort to being the party out, because then it's not your fault. You didn't mess up. I don't want any comfort. Leadership is not about comfort. Oh, Glenda, UWRW, leadership's business. It's work. It's responsibility. It's being called to account for your errors and what you do well. And we need nationwide and statewide people from both sides of this fracture to step up and be leaders. Quit throwing stones at each other. I don't care if you like Drew Darby or Mike Conaway. I don't care who you like. Instead of confronting them, instead of implying that they're corrupt, illegal, or moral, how about we tell them how they can do a better job? And then when the primary comes up, if you still don't like them, find a candidate to run against them to raise these issues in the appropriate manner during the primary. How about that? It's our system. It's also the right way to do things. And the great benefit is we don't hate each other. We don't give the Democrats and the media, who are their spokespeople, ammunition to use against us all the rest of the year. Some of my very good friends have run elections against each other in this county since I've been chair. They're sitting in this room right now, some of them. You had a rough race. You had a good opponent, didn't you, DA John Best?
I did.
Do you hate the person that ran against you?
Not at all.
That's right. Carmen? You had a rough one against Brad, didn't you?
And we're working
Our
great.
courtrooms are next to each other, aren't they?
And we're working great because we believe in the same values for our court system.
Tom Green County does it right. Oh, they had a rough fight. They ran hard campaigns against each other and did it right. We can do this, people. We've got to get it out of Tom Green County and get it into the state. And not just the elected officials running against each other. Not just the state reps or the Dan Patrick and whatever that other guy's name was. It's got to be in the party itself. It's got to be the media. It's got to be the advocacy groups. We've got to realize that we are throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We are giving it away. And this is not just the belief of Jeff Betty. This is a lot of folks talking about this, but it's also a historical thing. Some of y'all probably heard this stuff before, but I went to school, I was going to be a teacher. I studied history and political science. I started with political science and I finished up after my sophomore year. And so I was looking at minors, and a professor friend of mine in the history department said, well, just get your history degree. I should have said no. I ended up going 4 more years to get my degree in history, but I have both, and I was doing education as well. And the one place on campus at Texas Tech I wasn't really comfortable was in the education department. Y'all aren't surprised to hear that, are you? Conservatives are not well beloved inside education departments in this state. And y'all probably know I was college Republican. I was conservative back when I was in high school. I was that guy. I still am. And the point is, that study that I did helped me prepare for where I'm at now. Didn't ever think I was going to be a county chair, and it's just one of those things that happens. But it helped me to understand how we got where we were at. When I was going to Texas Tech in 85, 86, 87, 88, 88, and when I was going there, Democrats were working very hard to lose control of this state. It had begun in the 70s. What they called the New Left, which is really just the far left, but they called themselves the New Left, had begun to rise even in Texas. And they determined that Phil Gramm, John Montford, Pete Laney even, they just weren't good Democrats. Now, I'm from the Panhandle, by the way. I moved down here when I got out of law school, and I've been here ever since. But up in the Panhandle, Pete Laney's an institution, and one of the most conservative individuals you'll ever find. But he's that old school conservative, like my family was, Democrat conservatives. And they tried to kick him out of the party. He was dadgum Speaker of the House for many years. They did kick John Montford out. They did kick Phil Gramm out. That's how we got a Republican senator in the state of Texas. Because Phil Gramm said, fine, kick me out. I'm not giving up my principles because y'all have changed. That's what happened. The Democrat Party decided that they wanted to move out of conservative democratic belief system that many of us were raised in Texas. And they wanted to become Berkeley liberals. They wanted to become Northeast liberals. And so they ran off anybody that argued with them. Anybody that supported law enforcement, anybody that supported the military, understood the role of the military, they were suspect from the get-go. They were absolutely on thin ice at that point. And by God, if they did anything else remotely conservative on foreign policy or anything, then they were out. And that's what happened in the 80s. And in the 90s, when I was graduated and finally starting to go to executive committee meetings and that sort of thing for Lubbock, guess what? Suddenly there were people showing up at the Republican Party, and by mid-90s we started having Republican office holders throughout the Panhandle in West Texas. Now my vice chair, I don't brag about her nearly enough, it's not possible, but she was part of the women that caused Midland County to become Republican and frankly started the state becoming Republican. If you don't know Lou Brown, you need to meet her and talk to her, because she'll tell you what I'm telling you is true. It's just the history of the state. And where we're going right now, we are following in the Democrats' footsteps. We are making the same mistake they made. We are defining what it is to be pure Republican and conservative enough. And if you don't fit, if you don't come to us as believers in the fullness of Republicanism, we don't want you. How does that sound? Does that sound like building a majority? Does that sound like welcoming people in and teaching them why we believe what we believe and growing our... No. That's preaching in the bad term. That's dictating. And that's dangerous. In this county, we argue, we fuss, we fight, we disagree. But when the votes are counted, we win. And we have got to get the rest of this state to do that too. End of story. And the way we do it is to go back to our collective organizations, our Tea Parties, our SARWs, and our CVRWs, our TRCCAs, and our TFRWs, our state party, our Empowered Texans, our Right to Life, our lawsuit reform, every one of them. NRA, how many of y'all, I mean, I've listed off organizations, almost all of y'all remember at least one or two of them in some fashion or another, haven't. And I'm not even talking about your First Baptist churches and your Glen Meadowses and your Sierra Vistas and your First Presbyterians. You go back to them and you say, yes, I want to talk to you about what it is to be Republican. Yes, that thing you just said, it's not quite where we're at, but it shows that you're thinking about the problems we have. Yes, immigration is something we need to worry about, and I know you think that the wall isn't that important, but let me tell you why it is, in my opinion. And you help those people become Republicans. And guess what? If they become Republican just because of the wall and nothing else, and you hate everything else they believe, but they pull the lever for an R next election, congratulations. You did a good job. If you convince one person to pull the lever on any issue, how many of y'all got involved with Republican politics because you were a fully fledged, fully grown Republican one day? You woke up and went, bing, I now believe in life, I believe in the military, I believe in, I mean, come on. None of us did. Even I was squishy on stuff when I was young on this or that. There was something that got you mad or scared the devil out of you. And that was what opened your mind to the possibility that maybe the sweet, kind, and loving Democrats didn't know what the heck they were talking about when it came to running government. Find that door in your friend's soul, in their mind, open it. And stop attacking other Republicans, whoever you are. I don't care which side you are. Stop using the term nut job right or Tea Party nuts. Stop calling us rhinos or moderates or squish. Maybe with your friends, but not with the rest of them, okay? You're allowed to call me a rhino if you want. I don't care. Call me establishment. Because you know what? I am establishment. When I was 18 years old, I was a Republican. Can you say the same? Am I not a Republican? I've been told I'm not a Republican by people in this county and by people outside this county. I've spent 30 years of my life working with Republican parties, working on issues related to the Republican Party. My money, my life, my commitment, and yet I actually had a person from ET, let's be honest who it came from, tell me I'm not a Republican. You think I'm passionate? You think I'm angry? You're dang right. Who the hell do you think you are? That's the attitude that's costing us this state, and it's got to stop. And every time I see any of you do that, you can expect me to be on you. Why have I been on Facebook more lately? I'm tired of it. I'm sick to death after 6 years of seeing smart, good people who could be growing this party and doing good things, tearing it apart. For no other reason than because they want to have a bigger say in what this state's doing. Because when you get right down to it, ET, lawsuit reform, pro-life, whoever they are, they're just another advocacy group trying to take over the Republican Party, because that's the way it works. There's nothing wrong with that. It's only wrong when you use negative tactics and when you damage the party or the people that make up the party. That's wrong. I don't hate empowered Texans. I don't like their tactics. And when the moderates do the same thing, I'm going to yell at them too. If you want to do something good, stop worrying about the labels. Stop worrying about Rhino. Stop worrying about Tea Party or Patriot or Grassroots or every other label you come up with, and start focusing on what your neighbor's going to think about the next election. The guy next to you in the church, the guy at the NRA meeting or the friends of the NRA. How are they seeing this? Because right now they're seeing Trump not as a leader, not as a person who's advocating what 70% of Americans have been saying for years. But he's got an entire media organization and half of the political party establishment in this country calling him crazy for doing the very obvious thing, securing a border. How did we find ourselves so far down the road that that's actually controversial? How did we get there? Well, the answer is we let them lead. We let them choose the dialogue. We let them choose the education of our children. We let them choose the media that we're going to watch and see. And now we got to catch up. And we can't catch up by throwing rocks at each other. We just can't. So yeah, I'm not the greatest chair that ever walked the face of the earth. I'm just the guy here. But with y'all supporting me, boy, I look good. Man, they think I'm smart in Austin right now. Because y'all did it. It wasn't Matt. It wasn't me. I'm just one dude doing what I can. But I've got great officers. I've got an executive committee that stretches from one side of the political gamut to the other, but they work together to get things done. And yeah, we don't always agree, but boy, do we get it done. And now I need y'all to take on another role for me, another task. Go back to your organizations, go back to your associations, and preach this message for me. If we don't hang together, as Benjamin Franklin put it many years ago, we will assuredly hang separately. They will pull us apart issue by issue, piece by piece, until they have a dramatic majority and we're on the outside, pure of heart, unable to do anything about the policies that they produce. Republicans have shown leadership in the state. CPS is doing much better than it was. Families are now the basis for reunification. How about that for a crazy concept? We actually the legislature had to say to the DFPS, hey, guess what? Families should be looked at first. Did we really need to say that? And the answer is yes, we had to say that. Leadership from Republicans can change the world. It has changed this state. And if you don't believe me, go fill up your car. So, what else is going on? What else is next? I'm very proud to announce that Karl Rove is coming to visit with us. The Reagan Day dinner will be on March 30th, Saturday evening. It's going to be a highly sought after ticket. I don't have March 30th. It's a little later this year, Reagan Day, is because of Mr. Rove's schedule. If I have to explain who Karl Rove is, I give. In this crowd, I know who y'all are. I mean, I know y'all know. But just the guy's brilliant, whether you agree with everything he has to say, whether he's far enough or not far enough. Come on, that's what I'm talking about. This guy's brilliant, and he did it. He made George W. a shoe-in for president, almost single-handedly. Anybody that can make George W. palatable to New York and make it a shoe-in, come meeting if you can, but please know the venue size, etc., is going to keep us down to a relatively small crowd for a Rove event. He gets like 50 grand for speaker's fee most of the time. Jeez. So $1,000 or $10,000 plate dinners is not uncommon with them. I don't have final prices yet. It's going to be a little pricey, folks, but it's going to be an opportunity you don't want to miss. It's the kind of thing we're going to draw across the state from. I'm sure we're going to have county chairs and various folks from all over the place coming in. So keep an eye on our Facebook page. That's where we do most of our communication. If you want your name on the invitation list, just call the office, contact one of my officers, ladies at CVRW or SARW, and of course, just call me up if you need to. You got my card now, so you can call me. The rest of y'all, you know where I'm at. I'm on the corner of Concho and the highway. Come see me, and we'll talk about this stuff. But right now, let's focus on getting Carl here, having a big event, showing the state that you can do it. It can be good. We've already demonstrated it over and over again. Did y'all know that we voted for David Dewhurst against Ted Cruz in this county?
I did, yep.
Did you know we were the only state of any only county of any consequence and size in the state of Texas to vote for Dewhurst over Senator Cruz? Did you know we had Senator Cruz here 3 times and had very, very nice turnouts for him? Yeah, we do it. Let's show the others how to do it. Let's be leaders in the state and show them that this kind of bickering and small-mindedness and knife throwing, this backstabbing has got to stop, or the next thing you're going to be talking about is how do we get back into state office. We lost 13 seats in the legislature. We went from a supermajority to clinging. And some of those Republicans, they're very subject to their constituents' desires, if you know what I mean. The reality is their constituencies are rough. They barely got reelected. Stickland, 51% of the vote. They have got to listen to their constituents, and we have got to support them and make sure that they can be the conservatives we want them to be. And the way to do that is make sure that when the Republican tallies come back on an election, they come back firmly as victors. So, Reagan Day will be on March 30th in the evening. There will be a VIP in front of it, and then as like we normally do it, please keep an eye out, save your dollars. I'm not sure what the price is going to be. We'll try to keep it as low as possible, but just understand venue costs, etc., are going to be kind of pricey. As far as things going on in the community, y'all just heard that we have 2 council members running that have already filed for re-election. I'm not encouraging you to file as opponents, particularly, especially in those races. They didn't pay me anything to say that. But we have got to be active advocates in our city government. I think anybody that's watched the city council meeting in the last year maybe has discovered there's some concerns that they have about the adherence to common sense and conservative philosophies. So as this election goes forward, please ask the candidates that do step forward, what do they don't have to ask them if they're Republicans, but ask them what their policy is for government. What's their philosophy? Is it taxation without representation? Because that's a bad one. We got rid of that one once. Is it responsiveness to their constituents? Sure, anybody can say that. But how are they going to apply conservative to actual votes they take? Right, Lane? You want to see conservatism in action? Watch Lane Carter in a council meeting. The only one who voted against it. Proud of you. Just help me every way you can, and then I'll take credit for it, and I'll look like a great guy. As we go forward, if any of you have an interest in running for city council, please contact us. While we don't officially endorse candidates in the city council, the fact is we have got to be active, and we are the most active, most powerful, most knowledgeable people in this city, and we should use that power to make sure our government runs better. So, if you know of anybody, if you don't know of anybody, but you know you should know somebody, get out there and let's find them, okay? When's the filing period closed, Mr. Lang, do you know?
February 15th.
Yeah, it's coming up pretty quick. Let's get some good folks in there that can change things. You know, during the last cycle, we had several candidates for the city council that were successful, that were endorsed by organizations that are generally considered conservative. I want to make sure that doesn't happen again. Let's work on that. Anybody that's a realtor in the Realtor Association, let's work on that. Let's make sure that they understand that conservative principles work from the city all the way to the top. Any questions? Anybody want to talk about anything? What do I yell back at me? Yes, sir.
I think there's going to be one thing with our next
election, because this was the last election where you could do straight party ticket.
Yes, sir.
I think, in my own mind, that's the reason why we lost a lot of the stuff in Travis County, was people simply saying, I want to vote for this
Undoubtedly.
candidate.
Undoubtedly, absolutely correct. For those of you that didn't know, straight party ticket has been a thing that was created actually by Democrats many, many moons ago. The concept is that once you get the president's race or the highest place on the ballot, if you do straight party ticket, and you have a huge advantage. Who are you trying to get through? Well, Nancy wants it. So that is ending now. Smart people in the Republican Party decided that it would benefit the Republican Party. I hope they're right. I hope to God they're right. But Beto showed us maybe they were. Yes, Ms. Casper.
We've got 3 open seats, 3 seats for the school board. I'd like to get some candidates running for
I
that.
did not know there were 3. My goodness, thank you.
Yes.
We need people there too, obviously. For those of you who don't know, the legislature has already shown where they're going. It's going to be all about public school finance and property tax reform, and how do you do both? For those of you that don't understand basic finance, we pay for schools with our property taxes. That's how it works. So how do you reform one without figuring out the other one? And that's why it's all going to be intertwined. Have your voices heard, folks, because they're promising you the moon, and it can't be done. You can't reform property tax situation without handling the public education problem. And stealing from the rainy day fund is not a funding solution. It's just a short-term band-aid. Yes, ma'am.
I have a quick question for you.
Okay.
Do you ever visit Democratic groups, organizations?
Not very often. They tend to get real quiet when I come around.
I'm a Republican.
Yeah, I visit with the chair of the Democrat Party relatively often, and then I'm a member of other associations and groups just by my occupation, et cetera. And I have many friends that are Democrats that are wonderful people. John's wife, years and years ago, was kind of in the city attorney's office with me, and she was kind of on that side of things. Now, don't get her started about homeschooling. But my point is that that's part of my job, is to try to work with those folks and find out what their concerns are, and basically peel off membership whenever I can. But as far as like going to the Democrat meeting and stuff, no, I don't do that. It's just not respectful, I think is the way I would put it.
I would deem presenting yourself at a Democratic meeting and seeing other people's views, accepting humility, because I know that's really hard for us to do, and showing, this is my stance, but where you're coming from, let's compromise. Because if we're wanting to pull in Democrats and they don't like the assertiveness or directness of Republicans.
I understand. And I'm going to disagree with you only this way. If they're firmly Democrat, then they're not prime hunting ground for me. Because if they're firmly Democrat, I'm going to have to defeat a hard-held belief. I'm looking for the person who's just had children for the first time and has never been firmly anything, but now they're a mom or a dad. Because that person is now going to understand why pro-life matters. They're going to understand that it is a life. You can deny all you want, but when you're holding your newborn child, there's no doubt that was a life now, and it was a life when it was still in that woman that was laying there. There's no doubt. If you can't say that to yourself, you never had a child if you don't know what I'm talking about. If they have kids going to school, I have all kinds of things to talk about. If they're running a small business, how many small business folks around here became conservative because well, you already were, but the reality, if you were a little conservative and you opened a business, you're a lot conservative now, because you know what I'm talking about. I'm preaching to the choir on that issue, aren't I? So I agree with you to a certain extent, but it's that middle that I want. 32% of the country of the United States is considered Republican on most polls, about 32%. If you ask them, depending on how you ask them, they'll say they're Republican. 38 to 40% say they're Democrat, if you ask them. Do the math. 32 and 38, that's 70. That means there's 30%. 3 out of every 10 people you run into will not answer the question of whether they're Republican or Democrat. That's who I want.
Millennials?
Millennials are, well, it's not, we call them millennials. Every young people are unformed yet. College has a great effect on them, but life teaches them they were wrong. College creates Democrats and life creates conservatives. I have 2 right now, by the way. I'm particularly sensitive on that issue. 21 and 20, almost 22. And my 21-year-old was rough. Moved to Austin, and she was rough at first. The things I hear from her now, I can't smirk. Because if she sees that I'm smirking, then she'll know that I'm going, nah, I knew you'd become a conservative. But I can't say that. Don't tell Sarah I said that, by the way. edit that out.
Sorry.
She sees that I'm in so much trouble. But she's becoming more and more conservative. Because why? She works. She works her way through college. She talks to her fellow students. We have a friend of hers that we, and I'm sorry, Gabby, but we call her Red Gabby because she thinks she's a communist and she thinks communism will work. And every time Red Gabby says something stupid, Sarah calls me up and says, "You won't believe what Red Gabby said." And I say, "Oh, honey, well, I'm sorry, but yeah, you're right. She's not making sense." And in my mind, I'm going, "Yay! My child is growing up and understanding." And that's what we do. That's why I'm looking for the young parents, the people that are getting into business, that are working for a living, that are in their career now instead of just in a job. In a job, it's hard to feel invested in what's going on, but when you're in a career, when you're the manager of the Taco Bell, suddenly it matters. Employment issues matter. Wage rates matter. It's your life that they're messing with when they pass these rules. But if you're just showing up and getting $8 an hour, you're not as invested in it. So life creates conservatives. My job is to turn conservatives into Republicans. Make sense? Yes, ma'am.
How many precinct chairs do we still need?
We have 21, and 34 is the max. The reason we have difficult kind of filling that next level is a lot of those precincts that are in that group that we don't have filled, there may only be 1,000 people in the entire precinct because they're the way they're organized. The populations move, etc. Now, the precincts are supposed to be created based on population being the same in every precinct, but then it's only done every 10 years. So populations move and change. And I also say it based on voters. It's done based on number of humans, but unfortunately, voters and humans are not the same thing. We only get about 30 to 40% of the people living in an area that will actually vote. So there's precincts, for example, 112 or 14, one of those, that there's maybe 4 Republicans in the entire precinct. That kind of thing. They're voting. And so while we're the vast majority of the voters are in Tom Green County are Republican, filling those seats, and it is a lot of responsibility. You go to our meetings. Ginger goes to our meetings. She's a guest. She's not an EC member, but she's one of us.
In the same precinct.
Right, and she didn't want to run against Anna Bartosh, who is our EC. By the way, if you're an EC member, would you stand up for me? Raise your hand, stand up. Come on, folks, stand up. Stand up, Kat. They don't get much credit. They do all the work all the time. So thank y'all for coming to the meetings. We have pretty good attendance most of the time. If we have fewer than 12 or 14, it's kind of an unusual meeting. So we all get along moderately well. We behave ourselves most of the time. Sometimes not so much, but. And we do pretty good work around here, I think. And I want to thank them for all the work they do to make me look good. Because I'm just one guy. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna
Good.
present something to you.